My mother was a complete and utter sadist. She loved nobody on earth. There was nobody she loved. Words were never spoken to me, only commands. I was taught to obey under any condition. Even a smile, I was taught when to smile and how to smile. I was taught to urinate only on command. I was taught to do what I was told to do, and I did it. I did it obediently, and first out of fear, because there is great fear in a family like that. The punishments are brutal.
This is a true story of a survivor. It's a story so horrific that it will stick in your mind, possibly forever. Fortunately, in this case, the victim survives the house of horrors she endured. She describes this house as a hell encased in wood in a yard with a wire fence. At the age of 4, she became her parents' sex slave. Her mother, Violet Jessie, was a sex worker affiliated with Sydney's, Australia's notorious razor gangs. And her father, well, he was just a monster. Probably at this point, I don't have to say, viewer discretion advised, as I assume you've already figured that out. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to The Murders She Shed, where I discuss rarely told true crime, well, usually from my she shed, but we were cold outside as it is snowing so hard we were too lazy to go outside. We as me and my dogs, Max, Simon. So we're going to tell true crime in my house today. Hopefully you don't mind. Before we begin, just make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps a girl out in this big YouTube world. And, well, nerds have to stick together. So, hit it. Mary Josephine Goodefield was born on August 6, 1933. She was the 7th child born to her mother, Violet Jessie, who already had 6 boys before she gave birth to little Mary. When Mary was just 4 years old, she moved to a shabby house in Chullora, Australia. The house had no electricity or plumbing. Mary's bed was made out of shaft bags and was filled with bed bugs. She often itched and had sores on her little body. She was a beautiful little girl with natural curls in her hair, but the curls were never brushed and her teeth started rotting at a young age because she was so neglected. She sometimes liked to pretend that she was the dog because the dog had an easier life than her. Although I do feel my dogs have an easier life than me, but probably her dogs were neglected, so. You're leaving us? Okay. When Mary was little, it was actually during the time of the razor gangs in Australia. Razors became the signature weapon of choice for razor gang members after the introduction of restrictive gun licensing laws. Violence went with the territory. Thugs used razors, prostitutes used razors because a razor was better than a gun. Guns killed, and you could spend a lot of time in jail for murder. But rarely did you kill with the razor, and nobody forgets if it happens to them. After all, the scars are terrible. The pain is terrible, and each day for the rest of your life, you will see it and be reminded of who and why you got that scar. Mary's mother, Violet, worked the brothels under the control of famous women in their time like Tilly Devine and Kate Lee. Her mother yielded a razor blade wherever she went. She even once sliced a woman's face open right in front of little Mary. Mary was brought up by her mother in brothels and seedy hotels and was told to crouch in the corner unless the man decided he wanted Mary to join in. If she didn't join in, Violet had taught Mary how to pickpocket the man's pants while they were in the act. Little Mary knew she should be seen and not heard. She wasn't allowed to cry. She wasn't allowed to say no. She was too scared, so she just complied. At least while at the brothel, she didn't get beat by her mother like she did in the House of Horrors. Mary's father was an English Jew from Leeds, Yorkshire, England. He was not the father of all of Violet's children, but he was definitely little Mary's biological father. When Mary was alone with her mother would call her Jew baby or hook nose. Many of Violet's soup bowls would be smashed on Mary's head. Holding them in both hands, she would crown her. She said that Mary would be forever known as Jew. This was only the beginning of her mother's cruelty. Her mother and father were both sadistic and seemed to enjoy the abuse that they perpetrated on little Mary. Violet enjoyed asking Mary to bend over so she could kick her. She liked to do that because when she kicked Mary, she would bounce in the air a bit. So Violet would do it more to see how high she could get her. As she did so, she would say, "Isn't this fun? Aren't we having a good time?" Mary would have to say yes, but the sad thing is Mary didn't mind what her mother actually did because she felt wanted then. She felt like her mother liked her. It seemed like her mother liked to do this, so she just complied with the abuse. Violet had a tin box by her bed in which she used at night to urinate in. Violet spilt some of this urine as she carried it out. When she slopped it up from the floor with the cloth, she stuffed the urine-soaked rag into Mary's mouth and made her leave it there till Violet decided to pull it out much later. One hot day when Mary was thirsty and asked for a drink, Mary made the mistake of asking her mother for a drink of water when she was lying down. She was so angry, she actually did get off the bed and got her a glass of water. But she then held it in her hand and pushed it into Mary's mouth till the glass broke and cut the little girl's mouth. The physical pain was not even the worst thing Mary had to endure at home. She also was sexually abused by both her parents and her brothers. Mary's mother started making Mary pleasure her when she was only 4. Not long after, Mary was raped by her father. Bread was forced into Mary's mouth during the attack so she couldn't scream. Her mother had to literally stitch her up after the attack. Mary would often soil or wet herself because of the damage that was done to her. Violet had wanted and asked Mary's father to molest her. That's how sick Violet was. Violet would tell Mary, "Your daddy needs this because he's only got mommy, you know. Poor daddy, look at how big his tool has got and it needs work. If you're a good girl, you will open your legs wide and then daddy can work his tool." Mary said her father at one point made a frame out of wood, a bit like a crucifix, with rope loops hanging from the arms and a thing like a butcher's hook from the center. This went over the closet hanger. They would take Mary's clothes off, strap her onto the frame, put the loops over her legs, and fix it on top of the wardrobe. They would pull the loops so Mary's legs would bend up. Then while she hung there in pain, they would have sex with each other. Mary's father would beat her too, but it was always on the top of her head or the soles of her feet because he didn't want it to actually show. After Mary started school, she always was made fun of by the other children for how she walked. But she walked this way because of the pain from the repeated rapes. She wasn't allowed to go to school often as her parents were afraid she would tell others about what happened to her at her home. Another one of her mother's pet likes was to make Mary stand in the corner with a piece of wood about as long as a school ruler between her legs with no clothes on. If she dropped the ruler, then time would start all over again. One Christmas, Mary woke up to find Santa had actually brought her a doll inside of a little stroller. But her mother had tied the doll inside the stroller so Mary couldn't pick her up and play with her. After Mary's mother got pregnant from a man at the brothel, Violet performed an abortion on herself. Mary was still a little girl when Violet asked her for help with the procedure. After she aborted the baby, Violet asked Mary to hold it. Mary played with the dead baby like it was a doll. She was so little that she didn't understand what had happened and just assumed her mom gave her a doll to play with. It's heartbreaking. Her oldest half-brother Bob didn't live at home anymore, but he would often come back home in order to have sex with his biological mother. He was the only brother that didn't sexually abuse Mary, though, although Mary was often in the room when Bob would have sex with her mother, or their mother. The oldest brother that still lived at home, named Ralph, would show dominance over Mary. When he raped her, it was if he wanted to see her demoralized. Her twin brothers, Bill and Ben, were cruel in every way. They were even mean to animals. They once threw Mary's puppy in a channel-type system with cement walls so that the pup couldn't get out. They laughingly pushed each other with joy and made her watch the little pup drown. They mocked her as she screamed and told her that she would be next. Mary's father beat her so bad that it had almost killed her. Violet and her dad had been fighting one day. He became so angry during the fight that he picked Mary up and threw her against the wall. Then he picked her up and just started punching her on the head, which actually caused a neck fracture that caused her not to be able to move. She was admitted to the hospital for a full year. But even though her body showed signs of abuse and past abuse, she was still given back to her parents. They even talked about child abuse less than they do now, and it's still kept kind of secretive. But even back then, no one talked about it. No one admitted to it. It was okay to hit your children, and people just didn't really admit to this kind of thing back there. And children certainly didn't tell. They were told to respect their parents. So it was kept quiet within the household. When Violet sewed, she would thread fine little needles, make Mary put her hands out in front of her, and put the needles under Mary's fingernails. After Violet had finished sewing, she would say that Mary was the best pincushion she had. As soon as Mary turned 9, her mother felt Mary was old enough to be prostituted out to men, by herself. This gave Mary's mother extra money to buy herself beautiful clothes and things for herself. One day, Violet was arguing with the man at her house about money. When he didn't respond the way she liked, Violet took her razor and sliced his throat. Mary saw the man bleed to death in her home. When her father got home, Mary was locked into a closet, the same closet she was often locked into, but this time, from the closet, she could hear her father in the bathroom with a sawzall. After she was let out of the closet and went to use the bathroom, she found the man's finger laying beside the toilet. Mary attempted to run away several times, but always the police found her and brought her right back to her parents, which made things worse. Mary at 12 became pregnant by her father right after she had her first menstrual cycle, but her mother aborted the baby. Mary's father paid a man, a problem gambler, about £500 to take Mary off the family's hands. The couple married when Mary was only 15. During the wedding ceremony, Mary's father stood up and said, "Thank God that's done. Money well spent." At first, Mary thought it would be a relief to leave home, but her new husband was sadistic in bed and also was very abusive. He had an evil mother who controlled the newlywed couple. Mary became pregnant by this evil man and gave birth to a little baby girl. His mother very firmly informed Mary that this was her son's baby, not hers, and if she ever thought of leaving him, it would not be with the baby. Mary had several more babies by her first husband, but she never had hardly any food in the house to feed these children because her husband gambled all their money away. One of Mary's babies had been conceived when her husband made her have sex with a man in payment for his gambling debts, and he watched during this process. Her husband made Mary give this baby away. Her husband would gamble all their money away, and Mary hardly had any food or clothing for her children, like I said, or her. Mary became very sick from malnutrition and all the abuse she had endured, decided she was not able to take care of her children, and it would be best to put them in a boys' home. All of them was a boy, but the one girl. And the one girl went to her mother-in-law. Mother-in-law saw to that. That was her firstborn child, and she had already told Mary, if something happens, I'm keeping that baby. After this, she finally had enough courage to leave her first husband. And this is when she met her second husband, who was the most kind person she had ever encountered. Her new husband helped her to begin the healing process. She also was able to talk to a therapist for the first time in her life. In 1966, Mary's mother and father were in a car crash. Her brothers refused to identify his body, so Mary went and did the job. Mary wrote in her book, "I looked at the face of the devil. It was my father. He was dead. The identification was complete. He had returned to hell." Violet lived, but she suffered for a few years from the injuries it caused before her death. Before Violet's death, Mary took great care of her mother, even though her mother never took care of her. Even on her deathbed, her mother refused to apologize for everything she had done to Mary. Mary changed her name to Maria. Her new husband started calling her Maria because in Europe, where he was from, he told her Mary is known as Maria. She loved it. She was no longer poor little Mary. She felt like she was being born again, and it was just what she needed, a new name and a new start. Maria was able to write her story in a book called Daughter of the Razor. This book can be found on Amazon. But what I tell about her story in my video is mild compared to the abuse inside of her book. It is a rough one to get through. If you would like to read it, it can be bought as a book or you can read it from Kindle like I did. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we do, don't we? At the Murder She Said. We love to have y'all here weekly. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, as I said. And I might show you the snow that we're having. I don't know if y'all are having snow, but we're having a lot of snow. Just keeps pouring down. Simon says bye. Max is over here groaning on the floor. I guess he says bye. And Buddy's back here sleeping somewhere. We'll see y'all next time. Yes, you're a good boy, aren't you? All right, bye. Here's my Murder She Said way back there. You want to catch a snowball? Hey, you want to catch a snowball? Come here. Ready? Nope. See it. See it. You ate the whole freaking thing. Say hi at the Murder She Said. Say hi. He can barely walk though. He's done. He's done. Max, you want to catch a snowball? Oh, he caught your snowball, didn't he? Okay, I'll give you another one. Come here.